မနေ့ကဝိနည်းဆိုတဲ့စကားလုံးကိုမူထားပြီးတော့ယဟန်ဝိနည်းလူဝိနည်းပေါ့ကိုနှုတ်နှမျိုးကိုပြုစကေးဆောင်ဖြစ်ရအောင်လို့စောင့်စည်းတဲ့သဘောပါပဲရှင်းရလဲရှင်းရလိုက်လူကြောင့်လည်းလူကြောင့်လိုက်ပါလိမ့်တော့မြတ်စွာဘုရားက
Sayadaw-ji spoke mainly about the word vinaya, the vinaya of the monks and the vinaya of the lay people. This is restraint of physical and verbal behavior so as not to be at fault. The Buddha taught the vinaya so that one could be a true monk, to be a true layperson. The vinaya is for this. If one has the restraint of the vinaya, then there is self-control, and this is called Samvara. Samvara, S-A-M-V-A-R-A, also has the meaning to block, to keep out, to suppress, to cover over. So when there's no transgression of physical and verbal behavior, when there's no harming of others through body and speech, then this is samvara, or restraint. Whether one is keeping the vinaya of a monk or the vinaya of lay people, one who has the restraint of the vinaya can control oneself so as not to be wrong, and so that others also are not harmed. In this way, both sides benefit. As Sayadaw-ji said last night, Vinayo Samparataya. The controlling one's physical and verbal behaviors by observing the vinaya is for keeping out the kilesas. It's for blocking out the kilesas, misdeeds, and also lobha, dosa, and moha. It has the result of not transgressing. So Sayadaw-ji would like to elaborate tonight about the person who has restraint or to close off, to restrain, to not transgress. This is so that unhappy and unbeneficial things do not occur. And for this samvara, or restraint, to occur, there are 5 causes. The first is sila, having the good habits of keeping physical and verbal control through sila. Second of all, there must be sati, mindfulness. One has to have sati. If it's not possible to have restraint if one is careless or forgetful. One needs to be aware of one's responsibility to not be negligent. Especially, people should not neglect their responsibilities as human beings. If we do, this is negligence. And if one is negligent, then one is not fulfilling one's responsibilities. Not only is one unable to control oneself, but also others are harmed. So for us to have restraint, we need to have sati. And it's an important cause. The third factor is knowledge. Basic knowledge, and also knowledge that is developed further through practice. Basic knowledge that we need is the ability to weigh whether the acts or the speech that we're about to do are beneficial or not. We need to be able to weigh whether they are suitable or not. We can't just do or say what we like. Before doing something, one should have the ability to reflect, is it beneficial or not? And if it is beneficial, then is it suitable or is it not suitable? So this is also a very important cause for samvara, restraint. The fourth cause for restraint is khanti, or patience. One can't be bossy. One has to be patient and bear with things. If one can't be patient, then problems arise. And if one really lacks patience, then one tends to explode in anger. The fifth cause for samvara, or restraint, is virya, courage. This is courage not to do things that would harm oneself and others. The courage to avoid that which is unbeneficial and unsuitable. And also, it's the courage to do that which is beneficial and suitable. So these are the 5 causes that bring about the restraint, the blocking that is called samvara. With regard to restraint, the Buddha gave a sermon to the monks that is very clear, very good and simple. There was a group of monks, and each one of them controlled one of the sense doors that they practiced. One would practice control of the eye door, another would practice control of the ear door, the nose door, the tongue door, the body door, and thinking. So they each practiced just one form of sense restraint. And they were discussing which is hardest to restrain, and they couldn't come to a conclusion. They couldn't decide. So they went to the Buddha and asked him, and he replied, "Chakuna samvaro sadhu, sadhu sotena samvaro, kanena samvaro sadhu, sadhu sivaya samvaro, kaena samvaro sadhu, sadhu vachaya samvaro, manasa samvaro sadhu, sadhu sabata samvaro, sabata samvuto bhikkhu, sabadukha pamuchati." That means that the yogi, or the bhikkhu, the monk, who is restrained, who is controlled, who does not transgress, who is not transgressing in all places, who is restrained in every place, can become free of suffering. In humans, in beings, every day we are meeting up, encountering various sights that we find lovable and sights that we dislike and hate. We encounter sounds, various sounds. Sounds we think good and sounds that we find not to our liking. And when we inhale, there's fragrances and there's rotten smells too. When we eat, taste occurs on the tongue, and some taste, when we get food that we like, there's a taste that seems good to us, and then there's also food that we don't like, and the taste doesn't seem good to us. And there's various types of touching happening throughout the day. It may be gentle or it may be coarse. If we're hot, then the feeling of coolness feels good. So, and there's also, of course, in one's normal experience, in the experience of beings, there may be the touch between the sexes, between men and women, or others. There may be likable and dislikable objects of the sense of touch. These are called potaba objects. Touch, the things that are tangible. And also there are mental objects that we're constantly encountering. Thoughts, some are likable, some are pleasant, some are dislikable. So these sense objects are arising in all beings. There are 6 sense doors: the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. These 6 doors of the senses. And at each of these sense doors, there are objects constantly striking the sense door. Visible objects are constantly striking the eye. Sounds strike the ear. Smells strike the nose. Tastes strike the tongue. And tangible objects, things that we can touch, strike the body. And thoughts, various mental objects, strike the mind. So when these objects are, these objects may be pleasant or unpleasant to us, likable or dislikable. And in mental objects too, we can have thoughts that are good and pleasant, and we can also have memories of things we regret, things that cause sadness. So we're constantly encountering sense objects, and there's no rest from this except for when we're asleep. So the monks in the story that Sayadaw started to mention, they each thought that controlling one of the senses was good. Some thought controlling the eye door is good. And some thought, well, the ear, it's good to control the ears. And some thought, well, but it's good to control the nose, the sense of smell. So they couldn't reach any decision about which sense door was best to guard. But the Buddha said, control with the eye is good. Then this means that what is good is not to let lobha, dosa, and moha to arise when seeing. And for this, sati is needed. And also, the Buddha continued, control by means of the ear, control of the ear door is good. It's good to control the ear door. It's good to control the nose door. It's good to control the sense of taste. It's good to control the body door, the touch. It's good to control the mind. So the Buddha said that all of these are good to control. And best of all, manasa samvaro sadhu, it's good to control the mind. And sabbata, sadhu sabbata samvaro, it's good to control in all of these experiences the sabata samvuto beku, sabadoka pamochati. That means that the monk or the yogi that is controlled, that is restrained in any sense experience comes to nibbana. So this gatha is a very simple teaching. One keeps the monk's vinaya, or the layperson's vinaya, purely, so as not to break it, keeping it with respect, then no matter how likable a visible object is, no matter how detestable, how hateable a visible object is, if one is controlling the eye door, transgression will not happen. There won't be any lack of moral shame or moral fear. There won't be any lack of sympathetic feeling for others. With sila, the control of physical and verbal behavior, our behavior is clean, and this is good. And further, when hearing with the ear, if there's restraint, even if the sound is one that could cause greed, greed won't arise. Even if the sound is one that could cause anger, anger won't arise. These don't occur. And so too, with restraint of the nose, the tongue, the body door. With every single encounter of a sense object, for one who has the restraint of sila, this sila keeps transgressions from occurring. This sila keeps transgressions based on lobha and dosa from occurring. So this is restraint by means of sila. This is blocking, restraining, keeping oneself from transgressing. And this is sila samvara. One who respects sila and places importance on it, even though he or she may meet up with the chance to transgress, that person will control his or herself. This is called avitikamo sila. This is sila by not transgressing. And this is a good practice. So too, it is said, samvaro silang. So this is restraint with sati, with mindfulness, no matter what sense object one encounters. If there were no sati, then kilesas could arise. But with the protection of sati, they can't arise. When one sees that one's sila is good, when one sees one's clean physical, verbal behaviors, what one sees is praiseworthy. It's not faulty, it's not blameworthy. The clean behavior that one has through keeping sila is praiseworthy, and that's why the Buddha said sadhu. It means worthy of praise. If one doesn't control with sila, then when lobha is out of control, when greed is out of control, one will steal or rape or lie for one's benefit. When one lets anger get out of control, then one will kill or slander, harm others. And when ignorance, moha, is out of control, then one resorts to things that are unbeneficial, such as drugs. So by avoiding transgressions, we dispel misdeeds. And by restraining, we also keep misdeeds from arising. We restrain ourselves from transgression. So with restraint, with keeping sila and restraint, there are no transgressions, so that gross misdeeds, gross kilesas, die down. And this is called kusala. This is good. This is wholesome. It's free of fault. Because it is free of fault, it's clean. And being clean, it's refined, cultured. So when the gross kilesas, the gross misdeeds, die down, then our behavior is lovable. And this is also called sadhu. It's praiseworthy. That's why the Buddha said, Samvara sadhu, restraint is good. When one practices sila samvara, restraint of senses, so that whenever one encounters a sense object, there's no transgression, there's no with restraint of the senses, one keeps lobha and dosa, greed and hatred, from arising. The greed and hatred that could lead to transgressions. So when one sees that due to this restraint of the senses, that one's physical and verbal behavior is clean, what has happened is one has conquered the internal enemy. The internal enemy doesn't rise up anymore. The enemy called vera. Because one doesn't perform misdeeds, then there's no danger of self-blame. And this is cause for crying out sadhu. It's cause for being happy. One also sees that there's no danger of blame from others. This too is cause for happiness. And because one hasn't transgressed, one hasn't broken the law, so there's no danger of legal punishment. This too is cause for happiness. And because there hasn't been transgressive intention, then one doesn't worry about the next life either. One has conquered the enemy, and therefore one has become free of danger. So one can, in practicing sila and sense restraint, one can see for oneself why the Buddha said this is good. And it's important for us to practice and come to see how good this is for ourselves. What Sayadaw has spoken about now is the control of physical and verbal behavior so that transgressions do not occur. This physical and verbal, clean physical and verbal behavior, this physical and verbal behavior is clean. And this is a good practice. This is called sila, this clean physical and verbal behavior. Due to this good practice, due to this sila, transgressions are controlled. And this fundamental restraint of body and speech is due to sila samvara. So for monks, for lay people, for human beings, all need to have this Sila Samvara. Monks have Sila Samvara with the Vinaya of the monks, and lay people have it through keeping the Sila of lay people, the lay person's Vinaya. When a person has this restraint of Sila, this is when the sasana is alive in one. This is living sasana, living culture. So for this living sasana to stay alive, one needs to have sati samvara. It's like when a mother gives birth to a baby, she then needs to feed it. So with the Vinaya, our relevant sila, the sasana is alive, but it needs to be kept alive with the restraint of sati, and also with jnana samvara, the restraint of with knowledge, with virya, effort or courage, and with kanti, patience. So Sayadaw will speak about this tomorrow because the hour is already up today. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.